The Soybean School on RealAgriculture.com is brought to you by Pride Seeds, Nodulator Pro, and Cruiser Max Vibrance Beans.
We're back on the Soybean School with Albert Tenuta from Omafra, plant pathologist. And Albert, a lot of talk about SDS, and one thing that's always interesting is that rotation, soybeans after corn, and whether corn and the residue becomes a host. What can you tell us about that? I know you got a really interesting trial going on here.
Yeah, no, so we've been, one of the cornerstones for disease management starts with resistant varieties, as we know, and other cultural management tools. And crop rotation is one of the keys for successful disease management or integrated disease management programs. And when we've been thinking about sudden death syndrome, we've often thought of corn as a non-host. But some of the early research coming out of Iowa and some of our SDS work that we've been doing with the Grain Farmers of Ontario through GF2 funding, as well as through the North Central Soybean Research Program over the past 4 or 5 years, started to see that corn may not be risk-proof totally when it comes to sudden death syndrome. So what we're starting to see is that corn residue can harbor or allow the SDS or the Fusarium virguliforme fungus to grow and sustain itself in between soybean crops. And so what we've got here is through the GFO as well as the North Central Soybean Research Program, we're looking at corn residues and impact on SDS. And so what we've seen or started to see here is that residues such as the cobs, kernels, those soybean roots that are left in the ground harbor the Fusarium fungus, the SDS fungus. And so by harboring or allowing it to either sustain at a present level or even build up, that can then have an impact on soybeans when they come in after that. So having corn in the rotation, definitely a benefit for overall for soybean yields, etc., the soil conditions as well, but it may not be totally break that cycle for SDS. So a 1 year break with corn in there may allow us to maintain an SDS population. So down the road, what we'll probably be looking at is if we can incorporate a third crop in there. Wheat would be an excellent one as well. And so you can see a corn, soybean, wheat rotation, we will see less SDS than say a corn, soybean rotation. And we're seeing corn, soybean rotations in the Southwest here where we're seeing that impact with SDS. Through the Midwest, that's the main crop rotation, and you're seeing an increase in sudden death syndrome there as well. And hopefully in the next year or two, what we'll see and show is that corn can harbor sudden death syndrome fungus and allow it to maintain and sustain itself from year to year.
So Albert, if I'm a grower and I've got suspicions that I've got some SDS, I'm seeing those signs, what management options should I have? I mean, and I'm growing soybeans, for example, I'm a no-till soybean grower. Should I think about going away from no-till in that situation?
Well, what you want to do is that residue management will probably be very important. As you can see with this trial, this first range up here where we've left the residue, we can see an impact on the overall performance of both the corn and the soybeans. And then as we've gone across and removed that residue, we've definitely seen an increase in overall growth under this year's conditions in that. And so by leaving that residue there, you're not only potentially increasing maybe SDS, but there are other diseases that live on that residue. So a lot of these leaf diseases that we're seeing, the northern corn leaf blights in corn, other diseases, the stem diseases in soybeans, and that these foliar diseases, they survive in that residue. The root rots, they survive in that residue. As we leave more of that residue either on the soil surface and don't incorporate it or allow it to break down quickly, that can increase our disease risk. So from a pathology and from a disease management side of things, minimizing that residue can definitely decrease your disease risk. Do I mean get rid of all the residue? No. If you have, say, 30% residue, 25 to 30% residue left on that soil surface, you can get all the benefits from that system in terms of the soil characteristics, the soil quality, soil health aspects with it, but you can also reduce your disease risk.